You know that feeling, right? The alarm goes off and it feels like you've barely even slept. You smack that snooze button, maybe once, maybe 3 times, but that deep down exhaustion just won't go away. If you've ever found yourself wondering, why am I so tired all the time? Well, you are definitely not alone. So today, let's get into the actual science of waking up.
First things first, let's talk about that heavy, soupy feeling you get the moment you open your eyes. You know that fog that makes even the simplest things, like finding your slippers, feel like a massive challenge?
It really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Even after what should have been a full 8 hours, that fight to just get out of bed can feel like a legitimate battle. Well, it turns out science has a name for that struggle.
And that name is sleep inertia. Seriously, think of it like your brain is booting up like an old computer. It's in that weird in-between state, transitioning from being asleep to fully awake, and it's still playing catch-up. This is exactly why you might find yourself staring into the fridge with no idea what you were looking for.
Here's the really important part. A little bit of sleep inertia is totally normal. It should really only last for about 30 to 60 minutes. But if that grogginess sticks around for hours, or if you feel just as tired at 2 p.m. as you did when your alarm went off, that's often your body's way of sending up a flare, signaling that something else might be going on.
And one of the biggest factors that can mess with our energy is the incredibly powerful connection between how we sleep and how we feel mentally. These two are tangled up in a way that's impossible to ignore.
And just look at this number to see how tangled it is. Up to 80% of people who are diagnosed with depression also struggle with insomnia. That's a huge overlap, and it is absolutely not a coincidence. It's a major clue.
So this brings us to a really crucial idea, a bidirectional relationship. All that means is that it's a two-way street. Not getting enough quality sleep can actually make you more vulnerable to depression. And at the same time, being depressed can make it so much harder to get good sleep. It can quickly turn into this frustrating, self-feeding cycle.
And you can really see how this cycle plays out in real life. It could be trouble falling asleep in the first place, or waking up way too early and not being able to get back to sleep. Or it could be the complete opposite, hypersomnia, where you sleep for 10 hours and still feel completely exhausted. All of this just feeds into having no energy during the day and finding it hard to focus, which of course can make you feel even worse.
But here's the thing, it's not always about our mental health. Sometimes the real reason you're so tired is purely physical, and it could be happening over and over again, every single night, without you ever knowing it.
We're talking about obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA. What happens is, when you're asleep, the muscles in the back of your throat relax, sometimes a little too much. This can cause your airway to get blocked. Your brain, thankfully, senses you're not breathing and jolts you awake for just a second to get things working again. Then you fall right back to sleep, usually with absolutely no memory of it happening.
So while you probably won't remember these little wake-up calls, the signs are definitely there. Really loud snoring is the classic one, of course. But maybe a partner has told you that you sometimes pause your breathing. Waking yourself up gasping for air, having headaches first thing in the morning, or just feeling incredibly sleepy during the day, these are all major red flags.
And this is why paying attention to those signs is so important. OSA is not just about being tired or making a lot of noise. Every single time your breathing stops, your blood oxygen levels drop, and that puts a massive amount of strain on your heart and your whole cardiovascular system. Over time, this can seriously increase your risk of high blood pressure and other heart problems.
Okay, so now let's zoom in a bit and look at the core operating system that's running the whole show, your body's internal master clock. Because understanding this is really the key to figuring out why your sleep schedule might feel so completely out of whack.
All right, so how does your body even know when it's time to sleep? Well, scientists talk about two main forces that are always at work. First, you've got process S, which is your sleep drive. This is super simple. The longer you're awake, the more pressure builds up to sleep. It's like a sleep debt you have to pay off. But working against that is process C, your circadian clock. This is your body's internal 24-hour timer that's designed to keep you awake and alert during the day. A perfect night's sleep happens when these two systems are perfectly in sync.
But what happens when they're not in sync? Well, when your internal body clock is running on a totally different schedule than the actual 24-hour day, you can end up with what's called a circadian rhythm disorder. It's like your body is basically living in a different time zone than the rest of the world.
And this usually shows up in one of two ways. If your internal clock runs a little fast, you might be an extreme early bird. You're the person who can barely keep your eyes open past 8 p.m., but then you're wide awake and ready to go at 4 in the morning. On the flip side, and this is really common, especially for teens, is the extreme night owl, whose clock runs slow.
This makes it feel almost impossible to fall asleep before 1 or 2 a.m.
So, if your clock is out of sync, the big question is, what can you actually do about it? Well, the great news is that this internal clock isn't set in stone. You can actively shift it and get it back on track.
And there are two main tools to do this. First up is light. Light is the single most powerful signal that sets your internal clock. Getting some bright light first thing in the morning, I'm talking even just a quick 15-minute walk outside, tells your brain, hey, it's daytime, time to be awake, and that will help shift your whole rhythm earlier. The second tool is timed melatonin. Taking it at the right time helps signal to your brain that darkness is coming, and it's time to wind down for sleep.
So here's a quick look at how that works in practice. For the extreme early bird who wants to stay up later, the goal is evening light therapy to help delay their bedtime. And for the night owl who needs to wake up earlier, a strategically timed dose of melatonin can help move that bedtime forward. And notice the key word there is timed. With both of these, it's not just what you do, it's when you do it that makes all the difference.
So no matter what's going on, here are the foundational habits that are going to help just about everyone. Think of this as your basic sleep hygiene toolkit. Consistency is everything. Going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time, yes, even on weekends, helps anchor your body's rhythm. That morning sunlight, getting regular exercise, and avoiding things that mess with your sleep, like alcohol, are all incredibly powerful ways to support your body's natural cycle.
So at the end of the day, it all really comes down to this one question. Whether it's scrolling on your phone late at night, a crazy work schedule, or an underlying issue, feeling tired all the time is almost always a sign that there's a conflict between your lifestyle and your body's natural rhythm. And figuring out where that fight is happening, well, that's the first step to finally waking up feeling better.